It's the Church of Jesus Christ.
From a rocky upbringing to the hallowed halls of the U.S. Supreme Court, Coach Joe Kennedy's journey is a testament to grit, faith, and unyielding resolve. Rising from seemingly impossible odds, this high school football coach became a national beacon of courage, defending religious freedom for all Americans. This is the story of how an ordinary man was forged into an extraordinary champion of freedom.
He was a young man who was abandoned at birth. He was adopted by some parents there that didn't think they could have children, and then all of a sudden they started having children, and he became a bit of an appendage to the family. And so they sort of left him to raise himself.
About age 5, I knew something was going on, and our parents sat us down right about age 7 and told us that we were adopted. And it made all the sense in the world. It's like all the dominoes just fell right into place, and we were like, that's why. And I became angry, and it kind of spun out of control from there.
The coach will tell you he was a terrible kid, and he did everything that you would not want your kids doing. You wouldn't let him hang around with your kids if he was in the neighborhood. But there were nights when he spent, cuddled up in a dumpster trying to stay warm because he had no place to go. He couldn't go back home.
You can't process that when you're, 7, 8 years old nobody wanted you, and that the family that did adopt you, now they have a huge family and they don't really need you. I was that kid and always in trouble. Got kicked out of the first time I got expelled, I was in 3rd grade. Went to 12 different schools. I got kicked out of every single one of them, all over the state of Washington and Oregon.
He tells a story about one night where things were really bad. He had no place to go. It's the Pacific Northwest, and it's a very wet environment, cold environment. He breaks into a Catholic church of all places and finds a nice warm place to be there under the pews in that Catholic church, although it was a little bit creepy to him with the candles and the paintings on the wall and things like that and the creakiness of the church. But I think at that point he realizes even early on that this thing called church is a place of safety, some place that I could go to if I have to find comfort in the midst of a bad storm. And that I think will just kind of foreshadow what happens in the rest of his life.
I'd say the first time I ever really remember where I talked to God, I came back from one of the foster families I was at, or one of the group homes, and my parents had moved. And so I broke into the house and I was in a fit of rage. And I remember cussing at God, and I destroyed the place, punched holes in the walls, tore the curtains off of everything. And I remember falling to my knees, just screaming and crying and cussing him. And it's like, if you're here, where are you? Why won't you show up? And so my first real interaction with God was out of pain, and next thing I know, I'm in a Christian boys' home within months. And yeah, his fingerprints are on everything from the very beginning. All the pain, all the hurt, all the fighting that I went through, that was really prepping me for this fight that I had coming as an adult. And I had no idea that God was setting the foundation.
Growing up, Joe Kennedy looked up to his uncle, a Marine with a commanding presence, who earned both his fear and his admiration. That towering figure inspired Joe to join the Marines, setting the stage for a life of discipline and determination.
It's where I found it was something I was good at. I was good at fighting, I was good at teaching, I was good at training. I really enjoyed having friends for the first time, where you rely on these guys to have your front and back at all times, where you put your life into their hands. I never belonged to any of that. When I lived on the streets and everything else, I was always looking out for myself.
After rising through the ranks to become a distinguished Marine, Joe Kennedy retired from service and carved out a successful career in government, achieving the kind of worldly success many dream of. He later reconnected with Denise, his childhood sweetheart, the girl he boldly asked to marry at just 9 years old the day they first met.
Weird is probably an understatement, yeah. And I was probably the creepiest, weirdest guy in the world to just walk up out of the blue and, yeah, ruin her day. I was the bad kid, and so her parents didn't want me around, her friends didn't want me around. I couldn't talk to her at school or any of those things because I was the bad kid. So the only way we could really communicate was by writing letters to each other. And so I wrote letters and really poured my heart out so she understood who I was, not what everybody else saw.
Life had taken them on separate paths, both married others, faced divorces, and weathered their own storms. Yet destiny drew them back together. And as adults, Joe and Denise finally wed in what seemed a storybook romance. But as their family grew and Denise became a Christian, life at home began to unravel.
And I thought my life was perfect because I'm marrying the girl of my dreams. Well, reality was I was failing miserably. I was a terrible dad. I wasn't a good husband. And the harder I pushed to get close to her, the more she tried to pull away until we got to a breaking point. And that's where when I found the Lord, I was at my breaking point. She was at her breaking point. And one day I finally went to church with her, and I fell up on the altar, and I was a beaten man. I was done. I'm just broken. And I said, God, I can't do this. God, if you give me my wife, I'll give you my life.
Right around the time Joe Kennedy surrendered to Christ, an athletic director was trying to recruit Joe to coach at Bremerton High School, where Joe had roamed the halls as a teenager.
I was blowing him off, and my wife started saying, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe God's trying to call you to this. And I'm like, yeah, here you go with your God stuff again.
And he'd been a Marine for his entire career, got out of the Marine Corps, and it took a little convincing, but after he was asked for about the 7th time by the athletic director, he happened to be up late one night watching the movie Facing the Giants, and he felt like that was a kind of a divine signal that he needed to take this job.
It was like the hand of God came through the TV, grabbed my heart, and just pulled me to my knees. Next thing I know, I'm sitting there in front of the school HR department and hiring department, and I'm applying for the job of coaching. And life just kind of went where I thought everything was great into this realm of the unknown, because I don't know anything about football. I don't know anything about coaching. I didn't even really play sports when I was a wrestler in school. It was individual sport, so it wasn't my thing.
And so he took the position. And Coach Kennedy, I think he'd be the first guy to tell you, he's not really great with the X's and O's, but he's a great motivator of men.
It was a call that would set Coach Joe Kennedy on a path far greater than he could imagine. From the football fields of Bremerton High School to the hallowed halls of the Supreme Court, Joe Kennedy's journey is a testament to the power of conviction. Known simply as Coach Kennedy, this unassuming high school football coach became an unlikely champion for religious liberty, standing firm in his faith to defend the freedoms of all Americans.